What if the secret to having more energy, slowing the aging process, and even thinking more clearly wasn't another cup of coffee, but taking better care of the tiny power plants inside every cell of your body? Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating topics in health science, your mitochondria. We'll explore what they are, when they matter, why they matter, what damages them, and practical strategies to help you support their function. And we're going to start right after this. Welcome, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast Health Shots podcast, restoring vitality to you and the planet. I'm your co-host, Scott Patton. Joining me, as usual, Martin Patella, health engineer at Life Enthusiast. Hey, Martin, how are you doing today?
Great. Yes, full of it.
Oh, that's good, because I am dragging my butt.
You're running on empty, Scott?
Running on empty. And I made a huge mistake last night. So my flight this morning was at 8 o'clock, so I'm up at 5. And last night I had a huge meal. I didn't know it was going to be a huge meal when I ordered it, but it was huge. So my body is just stuffed full of meat and potatoes and guacamole. And all night it was like, oh, I don't feel that. Like, you know, when you have that big feast and you're just like, oh. Well, I haven't done that for a long time, but I did it last night. And then, of course, I'm up at 5 o'clock and I'm on the flight. And then when I arrived here in my new place, Pachuca, Mexico, as you can see,
it's lovely.
It was a 2-hour drive through 3 construction zones where you just sat.
Oh, God.
So Martin's full of energy. Scott's mitochondria are dragging. So,
all right.
Martin, what is a mitochondria?
You could think of it as a combustion chamber in a combustion engine. You have a 4-cylinder, 8-cylinder, 12-cylinder, and each of the cylinders within it has a spark plug and the ability to inhale fuel, usually through some injectors. We used to have carburetors, now fuel injectors. And the other one is air intake. And you have regular air intake or you have a compressed air intake, as in turbocharged. But anyway, what happens? Fuel, air, spark, boom. And you are converting fuel into energy. Now, your mitochondria are doing similar job. You take in fuel, food, and you inhale air, oxygen, and boom. Now, your heart, your brain, your liver, your kidneys, and your muscles are the heart would be the 12-cylinder and the muscles would be the 8-cylinder and your fat would be your 50cc single-cylinder bicycle engine, right? The main point is this. Get the right fuel, get lots of oxygen, you will have power.
So it's a very basic formula. And so one of the things in the formula is we're talking about converting. The fuel is ATP, is it not?
No, that's the outcome. That's the energy. You start with glucose or start with fat. And there are 2 pathways, but they both lead to the middle where you have something to burn.
Okay. And that's
the result of something to burn is ATP.
Which is the energy.
That's the energy. That's the mechanical cranking power.
So the ATP, that powers your muscle movement, your brain function, your heart conditions, your hormone production, cellular repair. Yeah. So if the engine's not working, the ATP doesn't do its thing.
Yeah, there's another concept in there called the electron transport chain, where you are essentially increasing the pressure of the electrons, which essentially gives you the electric power, and it's expressed through the ATP letting go of the electron and jumping down to the ADP. phosphorylation. Such magic words, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, like, because we talk about like eat a steak or eat a corn on the cob or eat some bread or like eat some fruit, eat some vegetables, and we're thinking in this macro thing, right? Whereas on the everyone knows it's made out of atoms. Atoms have electrons and protons, and we're taking these electrons and we're actually using them to live.
To power the whole engine. It's just much like the electric supply line that comes to your house, whether it's, well, let's just say, electric power into the house, you plug yourself in, you have supply.
Right.
I want to talk about more the engine metaphor, because you have the air intake. If you have a choked up air filter, you're in trouble because not enough air comes in. So you can increase the pressure with the turbocharger, right?
Right.
More oxygen, more combustion. Anyway, so what's the story here? Well, you right now are running on a deficit, right? Like deficit of sleep, deficit of repair. You have loaded up your body with digestive stress.
And I'm out of water.
Yeah. Digestion takes a huge amount of energy. Can you believe it? You actually feel better when you're hungry.
We just have to get that into our head. I'm hungry. Yeah, you're feeling good.
You know what's interesting? A hungry hunter is quicker and smarter. And a full hunter just lays down and sleeps.
We see that every major event, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, you have that big feast, Easter. And what does everybody do afterwards? They're laying on the couch. So full.
Yeah, done. Okay, so mitochondria. Well, so you need to have lots of mitochondria, and you need to have decent membranes that allow these things to get to the mitochondria. The mitochondria are inside a cell behind its own protection wall. And then there's this cytoplasm, which is the fluid inside of the cell. And then that is surrounded by the bilipid layer, the cell membrane. And that whole thing is then floating in the body fluids that are delivering, right? This could take a long time to explain the whole detail of it, how it cascades through what you put in your mouth. You have to digest it through a complicated process, and then it gets into the circulation through the blood, and the liver is involved, and the muscles are involved. Here's an important part. Glycogen, which is the human form of glucose, essentially, you can store it in your liver and in your muscles. In your liver, you'll store maybe 150 calories worth, and in your muscles, somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000, depending on your muscle mass. If you have more muscle mass, you will store more energy.
Right.
But that's the whole storage. That's your fuel tank. There's none more. The other storage is your fat, the belly fat, the fat stored around your body.
Right.
But that's a very slow activation. Your body will first use glucose that's coming in through starchy things, sugary things. If that's available, it'll burn that.
What you're talking about really is a hybrid car now. We've gone from a gas car.
Yeah, very good metaphor, Scott.
It uses the electricity, but when the battery is dead, it turns over into the gas.
The fuel burner, yeah.
So the fuel burner.
So what we have here is that if there is circulating glucose, you don't burn the muscle because there's circulating glucose. If you don't eat starchy things, if you switch to keto, you start eating high fat inputs, then the body will switch and start burning the circulating fats. But when you go hungry, and this is known as the intermittent fasting, you now have gaps in energy. And when you have the gaps, this AMPK system fires up and it starts consuming the stored fat.
Right. And that's what we wanted. That's what most of us need to do.
Yeah, yeah.
This
You know
morning,
what's
I feel like I have more stored fat than normal.
Oh, that's well. Anyway, so the important bit here is that um, what is the important bit? I lost the train of thought.
Well, I was
It,
going to bring up aging. Like, why is it so different when I'm 19 versus when I'm 69?
I think it's the growth hormone. I really think it's that. The hormone dictates what happens in the body and so on. But as I'm thinking about it, stress is a huge player because what happens is when you have a stressful input, your adrenals fire up, they release cortisol, and that says fight or flight, all resources, release the hounds.
Right, because it's you got to run or you got to fight.
Right. But what happens is, of course, all the glucose that's available in the muscles get mobilized. And then if there's not enough of that, then muscles themselves are being dissolved into glucose, instant energy. And then if you don't actually move and burn it, then the next step is insulin steps up and stores it on your belly as belly fat.
Right.
So the stress begets less muscle and more fat.
And that's, of course, what happens with everybody, right? As we run around and everything when we're when we're teenagers, and then as we go older, we become more sedentary. Our jobs are more sedentary, and
that's the main point, right? The creaky muscles, the creaky joints, I should say. There is less desire to move because it's
hard.
It may be painful to move, or it may be painful to after you have put out serious effort. And then it takes longer to recover, which leads to more sitting, which leads to more belly fat.
And we're a lot better cooks as we get older, so we
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
what
so
is the story?
Right. So, and oxidative stress plays a huge part in this, right?
Well, the oxidative stress is what happens when you're converting, right? Like visualize the combustion chamber or visualize a campfire. You took a log and you lit it, and you're now releasing the heat as you're converting carbon into carbon dioxide. It actually is the same story as happens on the inside of us.
Right. So we have a number of stresses that we need to deal with.
Well, you actually have tiny little fireplaces on the inside of you creating this damage.
Right. And we don't want to get rid of the fireplaces, for those of you that think, oh, well, if it damages us, let's just get rid of it. No, because that's where your energy to do anything comes from.
Yeah, this now reminds me is we have a liquid coolant and a radiator cooling the engine, right?
Right.
That's the antioxidants in the human body. That's the vitamin C, D, E, A, B, C, D, and so on. All that, those are the antioxidants together with glutathione, together with hydrogen, blah, 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 all the different things.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about some foods that could help or could hurt, right? And I want to start with the stable fats first, like cooking fats, such as like using butter versus margarine or ghee or olive oil or coconut oil, compared to
so you want to have fats that have not been
super processed,
oxidated, or I should call them peroxidation of lipids is the sciencey thing. We perceive it as rancid. You want to have fats.
It blows my mind, Martin, that people will cook with these canola oils or vegetable oils, and they don't realize that when they're putting it under high heat, they're making it rancid.
Yeah. You're damaging the oils. There are, you will hear about oils that have a high smoke point, right? Like the safest things to fry with is actually animal fat, like lard.
Growing up, my dad would cook Sunday breakfast.
Yes.
And he would put some bacon in the pan and he'd start cooking the bacon, and
Yeah,
then
you render the fat out of it, right?
yeah, and he never put butter in, he never put any oils in. It was all fat from the bacon,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
huh,
that's the English way. And you can do the same thing with tallow. Ghee is pretty resilient,
I
and
like
coconut oil is quite resilient on the
that's what I
vegetarian side.
use with my. Although I'm now starting to think what I should be doing is what my dad did, and bacon.
Cook with bacon. Go back to the old ways.
There,
Sure.
and when he had grandkids, he still has grandkids, or the grandkids are still here. They would call it Grandpa fried eggs, because he had his way of cooking it, and with the bacon and the eggs and salt and pepper and stuff, and
it was just perfect, right?
it was just perfect. Of course, they grew up on it, so they wouldn't have known any better. But it was so funny. It's like, what do you want this morning, boys? Grandpa fried eggs, Grandpa.
That's sweet. You know, there's a secret to the perfect scrambled egg omelet.
What is the secret, Martin?
Duck fat.
Oh,
Better than butter. Duck fat.
Duck fat. There you go. That's a writer downer, as one of my friends says.
Okay. So there you are. If you eat carby things, it's very much like lighting newspaper in your fireplace. They burn intensely, quickly, and then die down. Normally, that feels in a human body as hyper, followed by a crash.
Right.
Fat has much slower ability to burn, or convert. So that feels more like large logs that are harder to get going, but sustain you for a long time.
And Martin, we see that probably every day in a grocery store, because some parent has got their 4-year-old, hey, mommy, daddy, I want this. And they go and give him a little bit, a sugar, a snack bar or something. And the next thing you know, he's running all over the place, throwing apples and everything else. And then the parents are trying to get him under control. And then he's laying on the floor, yelling and screaming and crying and banging and then he's quiet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
sidebar metabolic typing. Oxidizers are calmed down by fats. Autonomics are calmed down by carbs. So whichever you need to reach for the right thing to calm you down, because when you have a deficit, you have a deficit. That has to be fixed.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the thyroid mitochondria connection, because those hormones help regulate metabolism, T4.
Yeah.
Becomes T3.
Okay. So the thyroid is the gland that controls the metabolism, your inner heat, it's like the pilot light in your fireplace, right? And so if you have the pilot light choked down, your resting burn rate is very low. These people are known as hypothyroid or Hashimoto thyroid, and they can live on minimal amounts of food. I think that we have been genetically selected to this by starvation. These will be survivors of famine. I saw that because I have those genetics. My mom having survived the concentration camp experience, right?
Yeah.
She is the perfect example of the genetic selection of everyone who was not hypothyroid died.
Right.
And so I remember her telling me how, I don't understand. I eat half of a bun and 2 slices of tomatoes. And this friend of mine, she has 3 eggs and 2 slabs of ham and a whole bunch of hash brown. And
is still hungry.
It would fill me for a week, she says. How can they do it?
Right.
Anyway, stories, right?
Yeah. So with the thyroid health, we need to make sure we've got iodine, zinc, selenium in our system.
Oh, yeah, right. The whys and details of it. So the T4 to T3 conversion, that's the passive into the active form of thyroid hormone. That happens in your liver and requires selenium. So not only do you need the iodine, that's the actual material of the thyroid hormone, you actually need selenium that makes the conversion possible. And you need zinc that just works the whole system, keeps it going. So if you're deficient in any of that, you're going to have gaps, right? Like your car being out of tune, right? Something off.
Something's off, right?
Yeah.
So it's really important that you make sure that your thyroid is looked after.
And then there's vitamin B12. That is so important for energy conversion. Like if you don't have B12, you're in so much trouble.
Right. So this is a good time to talk about some of the products at Life Enthusiast that we've got. So let's take a look at B12 right now.
Yeah. So you have the regular version or the liposomal version. Liposomal will be surrounded by lipids, usually phosphatidylcholine. And when you ingest that, this is about 8 to 10 times more effective than the not liposomal. This is just a delivery mechanism. And the second thing you want to think about when you're buying B12 is whether you are a poor methylator or not. MTHFR is the genetics of poor methylators. And they need to buy stuff that's either hydroxycobalamin or at minimum methylcobalamin. Whereas the stronger folk, they can take cyanocobalamin and be fine.
Okay.
So the cyanocobalamin requires additional processing. This one is the methylcobalamin. However, if you are a highly efficient methylator, as in you tend toward short-temperedness, anxiety, and quick bursts of anger, then you probably want to buy the other version with the methylated, not methylated, the cyanocobalamin.
So if you're grumpy, you want the other version. If you're happy, you want this one.
Something like that. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about Nanosoma, because that's one of my...
Yeah, that's the other thing that we should talk about. Nanosoma is one of those universal, phenomenal products. I mean, this is such a stroke of genius what this guy did. Polycosanol is an ordinary waxy substance found in plants. You can find it in sugarcane, rice, wheat, all kinds of things. But when you make it nano-sized, 60 nanometer, all of a sudden it gains the ability to get inside cells effectively. And that's what this inventor did, Dr. Raghavan. And so here you have polycosanol, which on its own, you could eat tons of it and not get the benefit. But here, when you use this, you end up with the ability to get this inside your cells quickly. And then what it does, it repairs three things. It repairs the cell membrane, which is the outer shell that allows things in and out. And that's where the receptor sites reside. So you're now fixing your ability to deal with vitamin C, vitamin D, and all kinds of things. So that's part one. Part two, it'll get into your mitochondria and repair them. So all of a sudden you're fixing your broken engines. And part three,
like it's the mechanic.
Yeah, it's like the mechanic. And part three, it actually fixes your DNA. So
that is incredible.
You know, sidebar into the recent COVID times that we've had. What happened was when you got COVID, what broke was your ability to produce energy. Like you were actually starving for your ability to exist. And the worst of it was the mRNA technology that they introduced as a cure. is that breaks your mitochondria. That's why you had so many people who were athletes getting myocarditis or pericarditis, because that's where a lot of mitochondria are, and that's where the trouble would congregate. The other places where you have a lot of mitochondria is your brain, so you had glial problems. And the third place was your reproductive organs, especially women in the ovaries, and they would have reproductive problems. Now, this thing repairs the damage. Let
That's pretty
that
awesome.
sink in.
Yeah, it's a crucial tool in your toolbox for staying healthy long term.
Yeah. So if you have a condition that is something like long COVID or Lyme disease or fibromyalgia or other things that you could label as chronic fatigue, you probably are suffering from the deficiencies at the mitochondrial level. You are very poor at making energy available. And this thing is going to act, regardless of what caused it, regardless of how you got there. This simply goes in and starts fixing the broken mitochondria.
Right.
So
let's talk now about Iridesca, which to me is also a foundational product.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is also one of those high performance tools. This time, this is not one ingredient, polycosanol taken out of sugarcane. This is 350 different ingredients taken from the plant kingdom. And as you're looking at the list, it's a long list. And every time you think of something, I wonder if they have this in Iridesca. I heard that it's good for you. You can almost certainly bet that's in there. You know,
Martin, you reminded me of when I was at a health conference 20 years ago, and the host would be very excited. You're going to be so excited to hear what Joe has to say about this. And Joe would come up and he would talk about this, and I would run back to the room and I would look at the ingredients and it's there. And then Sue came up and talked about that, and I would look and that ingredient was there. And the whole 3 days, everybody talked about how amazing these ingredients were. And every time I looked, it was already in the Iridesca. And to me, it is light years ahead of anything else that people can get. And just like the number one thing you need to be taking on a regular basis if you're serious about your health.
Yeah. And so what we have here is something that would resemble a symphonic orchestra. You know, you can make all kinds of music on a guitar or a violin, any one instrument, right? But when you bring in the strings and the woodwinds and the timpani and the I don't know, you name it, the brasses, all of a sudden, and then you add a choir on top of it.
Right.
When you bring it all together, you can stage Beethoven's symphony and have an experience that surpasses somebody strumming on a guitar by the campfire.
By a long shot.
By a long shot, yeah.
So that's what this is. And every time I think, you know, because I see lots of health articles and, oh man, I better take that. And then I go look in Iridesca and it's already in. So you can buy a bottle of something and, you know, take those capsules, and now you've looked after that one thing that article talked about. And then you can buy another one and you can buy another one. And then, but you know, what's going to happen is what you were deficient in the first bottle, now it's like 3 months later and you're deficient in it again. Or you can say, you know what, we have put together the orchestral combination of all these nutrients in one little bottle, and you just take a scoop or two, put it in water or juice, stir it all up, down it, and now you've got it all looked after. And to be quite honest, I like last night, as I mentioned, you know, ate a little more than I should have, and but I'm confident because I know that when I take 2 scoops of that in the morning, which I missed this morning because I was heading off to the airport, but generally speaking, it will help me correct those errors, right? That
Yeah,
I've made.
exactly. Yeah, this is like the ultimate parachute because it will catch you. There's a zero chance that you can have everything you need in a typical grocery store diet because of the poor soils and because of fertilizers and because of the choices and whatever.
And
And
the
I mean, how
processing,
complex can you make your salad? Mine usually has like 10, 12 ingredients.
right? Here's something with almost 400.
Yeah, correct.
So you're again, let's just show that one more time. Like, look at all these things, right? And that, by the way, is one of the things I feel really separates Life Enthusiast from everybody else. First of all, when you look at a product, you're going to get a good description. You're going to get good details. You're going to get the ingredients. You're also going to get instructions like, how should I take this, right? I mean, I used to badger, I never looked on this page, but I would badger Martin 20 years ago, like, should I have 1 scoop or 2 scoops or whatever? And I'm sure he was rolling his eyes like, why don't you just read the page? And then there's a scientific references that talk about some of the things, like in this case, we're talking about 300 plus ingredients. We're not going to have 300 references, but
We group them together. Yeah.
you group them together and look at all of this. And this is for pretty much every product. So this isn't just, I mean, there's a lot of value in shamans in the Amazon River Basin have been using this bark and making a tea that really helps with something for the last 5,000 years. So it's probably good, or Chinese medicine. But the other side of it is like when the Western scientists look at it, it's like, oh, wow, like look at all the things that we have found when we have studied it.
Yeah.
And that's really important.
Now, for some of you, you will have challenge with the taste. It's not candy. It's intense. So you may want to put it into a smoothie that has something strong like a banana or apples or something like that. Or if you're a total wuss and want ultimate convenience, we have one other product that's worth showing, and that's called Intramax. So if you would show that, that's a liquid version of the same thing, all pre-cooked, pre-done, ready, from 400 ingredients as well. It's the next best thing around, or in this level of complexity.
Wow.
Could you maybe throw it on the screen, Intramax?
Sorry, I forgot to hit that button.
It just showed up. And so this is a liquid thing. And so it's a little more pricey per serving, but it is really, really well made.
There you go. And here are the ingredients, like you were saying.
Yeah. 400 components, and it's just.
I know, Mark.
The whole thing.
Yeah, we're getting towards the end of our time together, but I want to talk a little bit about this ingredient thing because I think it's really, really important. And that is, like when you bake a cake, you don't just throw everything into the pan and stir it all up and then throw it in the oven. There's usually a recipe and there's usually an order to things.
Yeah.
So when you're putting together Iridesca or the other Excella superfood products that we have, there's a specific, I don't want to get into you do this first and that first, but you're creating a bunch of stuff and then you're creating another bunch of stuff and then you're creating another bunch of stuff and then you move this bunch into that bunch and mix it all up and then you move that bunch into this bunch and mix it all up and then you stick something else in at the end. So you have a very specific process for how much of each ingredient goes in and when it goes in and who it goes in with, because certain things require fat to be absorbed and certain things require water, and here we have a powder.
It's interesting, Scott. There are competitors out there with simpler things, something that has like 15 to 20 ingredients rather than 200. And what they do is they take all of that stuff and they throw it in a drum and start milling. They just go. I actually tried to have the Iridesca made by a third-party contract manufacturer. And they were just, oh, yeah, of course we can make it for you, says the sales department. And then we got talking to the production manager, and I started describing, I need you to protect the ingredients from overheating because we want the enzymes intact. I want you to first mill all the seeds. If you start cracking the seeds, I need you to be mixing them with emulsifiers and antioxidants, because otherwise they'll be destroyed. The life force will diminish. So I want that kept intact. And they just looked at me like this way and said, nope, not gonna happen. Not here. So that's the story that you started telling, essentially, that if you don't do the cake correctly, right? Like if you don't mix the yeast with the sugar with the warm milk, it will never rise.
Yeah,
like that kind of steps.
And it just, I also wanted to bring it up just to express how much care and love goes into these products, and they really are a premium level product that you get for a very fair price. So, Martin, we've come to the end. I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of a quick summary. If you want to avoid the aging, eat a nutrient-rich, minimally processed diet. Include healthy, stable cooking fats, right? So don't just get that processed fat that stays on the grocery shelf for a year before you buy it. You need to look after your thyroid health. You need quality sleep. Check out your circadian rhythm. Make sure you've got that going right. You need to move. We need to exercise. We're not built to be sitting around all day. We go out hunting and we walk. The old 10,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago, they say we walked 40 miles a day, right? Maybe that was once a week. I'm not sure if that was every day or not. Maybe it depended on if there was a lot of deer around.
It's common in Africa for women to walk 2-3 miles to get the water, and then load up the buckets and walk 2-3 miles in heat back to the hut.
That's right. So stay active. And consider taking, Iridesca or the Nanosoma for sure, if you really want to make a difference. Get rid of your oxidative stress. And the small daily habits have a meaningful impact, right? So wherever you are today, in a year, you're either going to be more fit or less fit, depending on the habits that you create and put through. So we want you to be healthier and stronger. We want to restore vitality to you and the planet. And thank you, Martin, for joining us today and taking time out of your busy day. Really appreciate you. And to all our viewers, listeners, readers, please hit the like, share, tell your friends about this, and let's help everybody make a difference in their health in this world. And so Scott and Martin saying, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
My body's a temple, but the walls are cracked. Stuck in the rubble of the years I've stacked. Stagnation in my veins like a river to the dust. Toxic whispers in the wind, but I gotta rebuild. I must.